Say hello to your new favorite soup. This is everything you love and know from tacos, but in soup form. I'll show you the basic recipe and then some tasty additions such as these smoky tofu crumbles and a tangy, cheesy cashew cream to really jazz up the taco soup. So let's get cooking. To start this soup, you want to heat up the largest green pan that you have. Just kidding, it can be any color. We want to get this quite hot as we're going to be cooking this really quickly. This one red onion is the only chopping required in this recipe, and you could even substitute this with some onion powder if you wanted. And we'll just finely dice the onion. Then add in your diced red onion. Now I know I said we were only cutting one red onion, but I've also got some minced chili here. But you can easily replace it with some chili powder or a chili paste of your choice. And we'll cook this over a fairly high heat, maybe medium high to high, because we want it to cook really quickly before we add in our spices. Because I cut the red onion fairly small, it's already starting to turn translucent in just a couple minutes, and it's even starting to color in some places, which is exactly what we want. For the spices, I'm doing 1 teaspoon of smoked paprika and 1 teaspoon of regular paprika, because I think they have sort of different flavor profiles. Then about a teaspoon of ground cumin and a teaspoon of ground coriander, which I had to do by hand because we only had coriander seeds. Essentially, we're going to do a teaspoon of everything. That keeps it quite simple. So we'll do a teaspoon of oregano as well. And then we'll just cook off those spices for literally 15-30 seconds is all it needs, just to get them nice and toasted. You could also just use a standard sort of taco seasoning from the supermarket. That would work great as well. Next, we'll go in with a good tablespoon of tomato puree. And you really want to cook out that tomato puree to sort of release its natural sweetness and get rid of any sort of bitter flavor from it. You just spread it out across the bottom of the pan, and that's going to get some really nice flavor. And then to deglaze the pan, I'm going to use a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. Passata is great for quick sauces when you don't have time to cook down chopped tomatoes. We're going for 15 minutes for this recipe, so this is going to be really helpful. Then we'll add our passata. Whenever I can, I'm adding beans to my recipes, not only because they're delicious, but also researchers found that eating just 1 ounce a day led to an 8% reduction in risk of death. A couple of different beans. I'm going for black beans, and I'm going to go for some kidney beans. I'm also going to add a can of cooked green lentils. You could use any beans, you could use butter beans, you could use chickpeas, but of course pinto, kidney beans, black beans, they're more traditional in this cuisine. So just stir them through. Next I'm going to add some veggie stock as we're making a soup and not a chili. Going to go for 500 ml in there. Also going to add a good crack of black pepper. A dash of tamari for seasoning, probably about a teaspoon. And then pop a lid on, that's going to bring it to a boil nice and quickly, and we'll simmer it for around 8 to 10 minutes. If you're not in so much of a rush, you could use red lentils, but they'll take obviously a bit longer to cook than if you just use ready cooked canned ones. Once it does come to a boil, remove the lid as we want as much evaporation to happen and concentration of the flavors in the short period of time what we'll be cooking it for. We're going to make some crunchy tortilla strips to garnish the soup. So I've just got 4 little corn tortillas here, and I'm going to cut them into strips. About maybe 2 centimeters thick. And we're simply going to add these to the air fryer with the crisper basket in. Drizzle over a little olive oil. And then to add a little color, I'm going to dust over some smoked paprika. Pinch of sea salt. And then just get in there with your hands and get everything nice and coated in the olive oil, the paprika, and the sea salt. And then this is going to go into the air fryer to get nice and crispy, and then into the air fryer. And there are your super crispy tortilla chips or tortilla strips. I may have nearly overcooked them just a touch, but I think I saved them just in time. It's amazing the amount of flavor you can get in such a short period of time. Cooking those onions and chili on a high heat is so important, and also toasting off the spices and the tomato puree. For a simple topping, I love a handful of these crispy tortilla chips, then some fresh coriander, and then something fresh, tangy and crunchy And for that, we're gonna go for some pickled radishes. And there you go, that is a really quick, simple, and nourishing bowl of soup. That is so good. It's incredibly rich, the spices are all coming through really nicely, it's fragrant, and it's got a lovely body of flavor, despite only being cooked for around 10-15 minutes. And now for a few ways to jazz up this taco soup. They may be a little bit more time intensive and slightly less budget friendly, but if you can afford to do them, they are totally delicious. For this smoky tofu, we're gonna simply crumble the extra firm tofu into a large bowl. You could use regular tofu, firm tofu, but it may require extra cooking to get it nice and sort of chewy and crispy. Now we're going to season the tofu, but we're going to start by adding 1 tablespoon of olive oil or an oil of your choice. We'll go for 3 teaspoons of smoked paprika, which is of course going to add that lovely smoky, roast, sort of peppery flavor. 1 teaspoon cumin for that almost earthy, sweet aroma. A teaspoon of garlic granules. Soy sauce, or I'm going to be using tamari. I think we'll go for about 1.5 tablespoons. 1 teaspoon of red wine vinegar. That's going to add a lovely sort of fruity tang to the tofu. And the acidity is just going to bring out the flavor of the other ingredients. 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. Actually, I'm going to go for 2 teaspoons. And this is going to help sort of caramelize the tofu and just bring out the flavor of the other ingredients as well. 1/2 teaspoon of liquid smoke. This is optional, but it really gives it an amazing smoky flavor. Of course, we've got the smoked paprika in there as well, so you don't have to add it. And then about 1 tablespoon of tomato puree. And then just get in there with your hands and give it all a good mix up so it's all well coated in the seasonings. I'm using my hands, but you can of course use a spoon if you want to. I just find this is the quickest and most efficient way to do it. Nearly forgot, I'm also going to add a good grating of black pepper. I'm going to air fry this tofu, so I'm just going to remove the crisper basket because it's just going to fall through the gaps really. I'm going to add a little drizzle of olive oil, just a touch as we've already got oil in the tofu, and then just pour in your tofu and spread it out evenly. And then into the air fryer. And after about 25 minutes of cooking, you've got this lovely golden brown, crispy, juicy tofu crumbles that are going to be delicious on this soup. I did add a touch more oil as I felt like they were drying out just a little bit, and I did turn them every 5 minutes during cooking. Now for that tangy, cheesy cashew sauce, we're of course going to start with some cashews, which I've just had soaking in boiling water for about half an hour. You can also do it overnight or for a few hours in cold water. Next, the juice of half a lemon. A generous teaspoon of white miso, that's going to add a really lovely tang as it is a fermented product. A couple tablespoons of nutritional yeast for that lovely cheesy, nutty goodness. I might end up adding more, we'll see how it tastes. A 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. This is optional, but I'm going to add about 1 teaspoon of sriracha for a bit of spice. About 1 teaspoon of tomato puree, if I can get it out of this annoying toothpaste tube of tomato puree. I reckon we can get a little bit more out. Yep, there we go. I'm also adding a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, which is going to add a lovely golden color, and it's healthy, so why not? And then we'll of course add some water. Another really nice thing to add would be some like pickled juice from some olives or some like pickled jalapenos. That would be really nice. And we'll just blend that until smooth. And that is your tangy, cheesy sauce ready to be drizzled over that smoky tofu. Let's add a good few tablespoons of that smoky, caramelized tofu. Of course, we're not going to forget the crunchy tortilla chips, and then a drizzle of that cheesy cashew sauce. And a touch of fresh coriander, just to finish it off. Serve that with a wedge of lime and some avocado, and you're on to a winner. So good. This dish is so hearty and warming. The caramelized smoky tofu adds a lovely body to the soup, and then you've got that creamy, salty, tangy cashew sauce that just brings it all together, makes it really nice and indulgent. Give this recipe a go and let me know what you think. This taco soup would be delicious with a roast pepper salsa on it, and you can find a recipe for that in this video here.